But anyway, the life of being a father. And I don't know. Yeah, suck it up, be a man. Okay, unique title. I know. I was. I love watching reruns, Andrew Griffith and stuff. I ran across a Little House on the Prairie. Y'all remember that show? It was weird. It was. I mean, and what was weird about it was that you actually see a father on a TV show that's praying with his family, that's teaching moral values, and it's just kind of weird because it's just so hard to find that on TV these days. Now, I've mentioned this before, probably last year. It's hard on Father's Day to do a message because so many people, out of a lot of counseling that Jill and I do together and that I do, I just hear so many nightmares about people's experiences with their dads. And so it's tough for some people. And, I say Happy Father's Day, and some of you guys are like, yeah, whatever. Because of it, whatever circumstances that you've had, some horrible things, maybe you had a horrible situation with your dad who maybe abandoned you or due to alcoholism or whatever the case may be, or maybe perhaps because you've lost your father. And I don't care how old you are, when you lose your father, you're going to always miss your father and your mother as well. And so I know it's tough. I've never had to experience that from the father's side because I have. Sorry, you're not dead yet, Dad. I'm sorry. I have a great dad. So I don't know how that feels, but I know that some people do feel that. So uh, it's very tough to do that, knowing that some people experience pain from that part of their life. And one of the songs that we sing is just so perfect for us to lead into this message. And listen to these lyrics. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, O God. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. See, I can dwell on my past, as you guys do too. And here's kind of the whole topic in a nutshell. People can dwell on some of their past experiences that were not pleasant, that were painful or hurtful. But I found in my life that grace from God is enough. I realize that God is more than enough for me, and grace supersedes anything negative that ever happened in my life or will ever happen in my life. And if you had an earthly dad that was not a dad that should have been who he should have been, was not a true father, I want to share a couple of verses with you. The first one is out of Psalms. Psalm 68:4 says, Sing to God, sing in praise of his name, extol him who rides in the clouds, rejoice before him. His name is the Lord. A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families. He leads out the prisoners with singing, but the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. Here, what we see here, we've seen the description of what happens. And we see where, despite what happens, that we can sing to him and we can rejoice and we can have hope. Why? Because he is a father to the fatherless. And he's proclaiming here that I know you don't have a great home. I know you don't have a great situation. Now, I'm speaking just to those that experience this. We're going to switch gears in a minute. But he's saying, you know what? I'm going to be that father. I'm going to be the defender of the widows. I'm going to be the one that makes this family work. I'm going to be the one that sees this single mom raise these children. Let me tell you, folks, that's the God that we worship. That's the God that we sing about, that we pray to. And we all say, we sing that song, Your grace is enough. Is his grace really enough? Is his grace, is that all that we really need? Do we really mean it? Do we believe every word of it? Do we just sing the songs? Do we just kind of go over it because it's kind of the norm? That's what we're supposed to do? Or do we truly believe that the Lord is my shepherd, and with him I have enough. He is sufficient. He's a father to the fatherless. See, I don't meet a lot of people that believe that. Listen, many of you know my story. I lost my mom at the age of 17, and I'll tell you, it left a hole in my heart through that experience. But I can tell you that when I found Christ, that hole was patched. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't miss her anymore and all that stuff. I'm not saying that at all. But it just gave me a security of knowing that this newfound relationship brings love of a parent through my Savior Jesus Christ. And he filled that gap. He filled that void. And let me tell you, people would come up and say, "Oh man, your life was probably messed up." Especially when it first happened. When I was just got out of school, and people would say, "It must have messed you up, losing your mom that early and so forth." Let me tell you, I love my life. I do. I love my life. My life is really cool. I wouldn't trade it for anyone, with anyone, or for anything. I have a great wife. Have a great daughter and another daughter. Uh, all kidding aside, I feel like one of the most blessed men who's ever walked the face of the earth. And people are like, well, it had to mess you up here. Let me hug you. I'll be your mama. No, 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 no. I'm good. Because really, for me, knowing that the creator of the universe loves me, his grace is enough. His grace is enough. It's sufficient. And knowing that the creator of the planet is crazy about me, I'm good, folks. I'm good. That is actually enough for me. And when I sing these songs, I really mean what I'm singing. That he is the father to the fatherless, or he fills the void at the loss of a parent, or whatever the case may be. And I'm asking you this morning, do you believe this? And is he sufficient? Because he is the Father that we truly celebrate this morning here on Father's Day. He's the Father to all of us, regardless of our shortcomings, regardless of our mistakes, regardless of everything else. He is enough. And some people just simply refuse to reach out to him for comfort and for strength. And there may be some men here this evening that say, well, I haven't been the father that I should be. Let me tell you guys, he's still able to be reached out to. And you come to him with any situation and say, you know what, I've let my family down. I haven't been who I was supposed to be as a dad, and you're not going to be perfect, but I've fallen short on that. Cry out to God, because he is a father to the fatherless. And you have to believe in the sufficiency of who God is. That God can be a father to those kids that you have. Let me tell you, here's a secret. Every father in here, our Lord and our Savior loves your children more than you do. And I know that's hard to imagine. That's hard to grasp. And I know sometimes this is moms too. You're going to say, well, yeah, you don't know my kid, because man, I can strangle them sometimes. Maybe some more than others. I could just strangle them sometimes. I don't know what to do because mine's gone this direction or that direction. God is still God. And God's truth will prevail, and his word will never return void. And we're going to talk about what it is to be a father, what it is to be a man, which gives me an opportunity to promote something that we're going to do as a church. For those that are interested, if you have children, you have youth, we're going to be doing a class. It's called Parenting 911. And it's coming up. It's going to be offered Friday evening, September the 18th, at our student building. And we're going to have a panel of parents that are there that's raised children. Well, you're never done raising children. But a set of parents that have raised children. For those of you that are going through this and you're trying to, how did you handle this? And everybody does it differently. So there's going to be several sets of parents that are going to say, this is how we handle this situation with our child. So if you're a parent with a young child or a teenager, we're going to have this on September the 18th. And if you want to seek advice on raising kids in a godly way. Now, let me get back. Listen, I've raised my girls, and I've seen my mistakes, and I've seen my own sins affect my children. And I'm man enough to admit that. I was not a perfect dad. I know Brendan would tell you I was. But but I was not a perfect dad. And I made my own mistakes, and I have to depend on God to be sufficient enough to cover my mistakes and be the true God that He is. And I've seen that, and I'm going to seek strength from Him to be the best dad that I can be. But I also believe that my Father in heaven is my true Father. He's going to give me strength. He's going to give me direction. He's the Creator, and He does love me more than I do. That's why I fall short. And what I mean by that is, you know what's really difficult is handing your children over to God. When you want to fix something that's going on, I'm a fixer. When something's broken, I want to fix it. If something's not working, I want to fix it. Sometimes the solution to fixing situations is giving your children to God. Say, God, I don't know what to do. Here. That's hard. Because you know what the next thing you're doing? What can I do if I just kind of do this? No. Sometimes you hand your children over to God. And I had to realize that's hard to do sometimes when they make mistakes, when I make mistakes as well. And the dads that maybe you're down yourself, you say, you know what, I'm not being who I'm supposed to be. And that will never change because I've always been that way. It's impossible. You know what's impossible? Impossible is expecting God to move in impossible ways in your life, but yet you're not willing to move for God. Do we realize that the God that we serve is a God that healed the sick? He brought the lame to walk. He raised the dead, including himself. Here's the kicker. The same spirit that resides in him is the same spirit that resides in you as a believer in Christ. There's nothing impossible for our God. There's nothing impossible that we can't give to him. And the Bible said that the spirit of him who actually did raise Christ from the dead now lives within you. So, the one who actually did the impossible now lives amongst you, inside of you. So what is it about being a man? What's about being a man? What's that all about? If you leave here, man, this morning without just remembering one thing, I want you to remember this one verse. This is the key verse we're going to look at today. Be on the alert, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Is that not a weird verse? I mean, how many times do you hear in our culture a message that says, come on, act like a man? Listen, we're living in an age when everyone is trying to get rid of the male and female distinctions. Agreed? Especially here locally. We see all kinds of stuff. Our culture tells us we're all just the same. There's not any difference. There's not any distinction. God did not uniquely design us to be different. There's no differences. I mean, it's politically incorrect to say act like a man. It's offensive. When's the last time you heard someone say that? Well, it's wrong to say in our culture. So for a man to stand in front of a crowd and say act like a man, by many is deemed unacceptable because you get this barrage of messages that tells you the exact opposite. Men, you're supposed to find your feminine side. We hear that all the time. Look deep inside, express yourself, and then you hear someone say act like a man because the Bible commands you to. Now, some people are like, whoa, I've never heard this. So here you go, guys. Suck it up and act like a man. All the message today, come on, I'll hug you, you poor victim, it's not your fault. Wah, wah, wah. That's what society tells us to do. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be gentle, we shouldn't be caring, we shouldn't be compassionate, because I'm full of compassion. Okay, maybe I'm not full of it, but I have some, okay? Um, but we don't preach this anymore. And yet, in the words that Paul is using here, he's using these military words. In 1 Corinthians 16, he's like, do you not understand that I'm speaking to soldiers here? Do you not understand that you're at war? There's a battle for your soul. There's a battle for your mind. Guys, there's a battle for your children. Whether you realize it or not, there's a battle in this world that tries to pry your children away from you and away from the true Father. So that's what Paul is saying. He's saying there's a battle for all this, a battle for your family, for your home, for your conscience. Out of the many years that Jill and I did Smoky Mountain Youth Conference in Pigeon Forge, we was involved with it for like 22 years, and we ran it for ourselves with an army of people for like 8 years. And we had a flyer that was sent out to 1,500 churches every year. And on the front of the flyer, it had this saying. And it said this. It said, life used to be a battleground. Life used to be a playground. Now it's a battleground. When you give your life to Christ, the biggest battle in your life just begins. I've gotten hooked on this channel on TV, American History Channel. Y'all watch that? Not the History Channel. American History, all about wars and battles and stuff like that. That's a lot like your walk as a believer is. And so Paul here is like, you have to, you've got to get ready to fight. And he uses these military phrases. And the first one is this. He says, be alert. He said, be alert by watching and looking for the enemy. And he uses these terms. He's like, you need to be ready to defend. You need to be ready to attack. You're in a war here. You're in a fight. You were born for this battle. And he's like, start acting like it. And the next phrase that he uses, he says, stand firm in your faith, which means don't retreat. It means the enemy is coming, but you stand your ground. You stand firm in your faith. Don't go running from your problems, curling up in a corner and giving up. He says, stand your ground and do not retreat. This is an order. This is like an order that he's given to these believers. He's like, stand firm in your faith. And it's kind of like, God gave us the 10 Commandments, but not the 10 suggestions. Okay, this is what Paul is treating this as a military order, saying, stand firm, don't run, don't retreat, don't go running from your problems. He's like, there's going to be many times in your life that things are going to be flying at you, and you're going to see shrapnel coming. And you're going to be like, oh man, look at all this stuff that's coming at me. I just want to give up. And Paul's like, what did you expect? You're in a war. You're in a battle. Don't retreat. Stand your ground. Stand firm in your faith. And be alert. You're in a war. But everybody's shooting at me. See the compassion? Do you hear the compassion? Stand firm in your faith. And he goes on, he says, act like men. Be strong. Now, he uses this adjective of strength, and he says, act like men. How do you act like a man? Here's an example. Les walks in today, and he says, did you buy a ticket? I'm like, a ticket? He said, yeah. To the gun show? That's a manly thing to say. Yeah, look at Rose sleeve up over there. Yeah. Seriously, how do you act like a man? Well, what defines a man as being strong? And it's not. I'm not talking about. Let me say this. It's not saying that women aren't strong. I know a lot of strong women. So this verse is not even talking about that. I know some incredibly strong women, but a man is defined by his strength. It's the truth, and if you're a man in this room, despite whatever messages that you've heard from the world, you need to know that God designed you to be a strong, godly leader, and it starts in your home. He designed you that way, to be strong, and it's not just a physical strength. This passage is not talking about physical strength. However, if your wife can beat you at arm wrestling, I think you're living in sin. That's just my opinion, but anyway. It's not talking about physical strength. It's talking about being strong in the difficult times when you have to make a tough choice with your children or with your home. It's talking about being strong and being strong enough to lead your family, to be the spiritual leader of your family. It's talking about being strong when you keep getting knocked down for whatever situations coming your way, whether it be relationship issues or finance issues, whatever it is, to be strong. One of my favorite movies of all time is Wild Hogs. Matter of fact, I seen the movie. I went on a motorcycle. I did, seriously. Uh, the end of that movie, when the four wild hogs are standing up against the Delta Eagles, the 50 some odd motorcycle gang members, and they're fighting them in front of the diner. Y'all remember that part? And they're just getting whooped. And then John Travolta, one of them, looks over and they're all down. They're been busted up. And they're all down on the ground. And he looks over and he says, "Really going to do this?" And they're like, I mean, this is a comedy, but this is the great point in this message. He looks over and they're all sitting there holding their jaws. One of them's Woody. He's got duct tape around his arms like this. Remember that? And he looks over and he says, "Are we going to do this? Are we really going to do this?" And all of them, yeah, we have nothing to lose. They get up and they just go at it again. Sometimes when you're in a situation to where it just doesn't look promising, you just got to do this. What's this? What this is allowing your Heavenly Father to be your Father. And say, "God, I don't have this. I hope you've got it." I promise you, He does. God designed us men to be strong mentally and to be able to handle the shrapnel that comes our way in this war that we're in. We can all get overwhelmed. I mean, there are times that you want to run, that you want to give up. Let me tell you, it happens to me. There's times I'm just like, I'm done. I'm checking out. I'm going to the fridge, going to the couch. I'm over. I do. And these words ring in my head. And this is the time that I have to say, "No, I'm a man. I'm not going to run. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle the situation." Let me ask you to be honest right here just for a second. How many of you guys have raised teenagers? Okay. How many of you guys have encountered situations during raising your teenager that you said something like, "I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe the choice that my child has made." Okay. Those are times that you sometimes want to run. Those are times that you don't have any answers. I'm here to declare to you today that Jesus Christ is the answer. Okay? We just got to be mentally strong enough to not run. And I want to run sometimes. Listen, I'm going to do what God's called me to do. Now, I'm not going to use a straw. I'm not going to use an umbrella because men don't do that. Okay? All right? We don't use straws or umbrellas. Okay? That's just kind of my way of thinking anyway. But there's no saying that a man just got to do what a man's got to do. You have to just got to do what's right in the eyes of God. And you have to do what's right no matter how popular it is with other people. If other people are going to dislike you, other people are going to hate you, you have to be like, "I don't care. This is what God's telling me to do, and this is what I'm going to do." You have to ask yourself, am I willing to do what God has called me to do? And here's maybe a bigger question. Do I want to know the will of God? I hear this all the time. How do you know what the will of God is in your life? How do you know that God's telling you that this is what He wants you to do? Well, before you answer that question, you need to ask the question, do I really want to know the will of God? Because let me tell you, some people are like, that scares the bejeebies out of me. To actually know what God would want me to do, that's scary. Ask some people on the mission field that live in third world countries. That's scary. See, we're kind of like, here's our comfort zone. We'd like to take a little bit of God's will and mix it primarily with our own will and twist them together like a Twizzler with just a little bit more of our own will and bring those together. And life is good. Life because you still have control a little bit of that. And we're in our mind, we're like, I think I'll just be happier if I put a little bit of my will into God's will too. What that means is that we don't totally trust God and His will for our life. So even if it's scary or uncomfortable, it is really best to want and to desire God's will for your life. But once again, we have to ask, do you want to know the will of God for your life? And an hour from now, if God had total control, answer this question. An hour from now, if God had total control of your life and you left this building and He asked you to do anything in the world, would you do it? And that's scary. You walk out of here and you look at your wife and you're like, honey, God's telling us that we need to go home and pack up. We need to sell our house. And I think we need to move to Iraq and start a ministry. Would you do it? Regardless of the task. I don't know about you, but I get convicted about this stuff. And I hope you think on this. I mean, when it comes to funerals, talking about things that God wants you to do, when it comes to doing funerals, uh, I have to ask this question. I have to say, God, if you're doing this funeral, what would you say? Because listen, it's easy. Don't take this wrong. For most people I know in this room, it would be very, very simple to do your funeral. But there's some people I've done funerals for before that was very difficult because everybody's expecting the officiant who's officiating the service to say he or she is in a better place, regardless of how they lived, regardless of what the priorities were. So am I willing to say, well, I didn't know Edna real well, but I know that she's about to split the gates of hell wide open. Am I willing to do that if God told me to say that? Am I willing to offend everyone in that room? Now, I would know where the back door is at before I said that. But am I really willing, if God said, listen, brother, don't sit here and lie about this lady. You know as well as I do that she stood before me and I said to her, depart from me, I'll never know you. That's hard. That's scary to think of. But everybody expects to hear that. There's a lot of pressure. I don't know. Am I willing to do that? I've never done that, but I have always, in situations like that, I've given the presentation of the gospel. And I've kind of skirted around that. I'm just being honest with you. I've kind of skirted around and say, if you've given your life to Christ, and when you find your final destination, you're going to be in a better place. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, sorry, Edna. I've had to do funerals like that before, and it's hard to do. Do I have the guts? Here's the question. Do I have the guts to preach like Jesus? Think about this. Every time Jesus preached, everybody left. Except for the 5,000 because they were going to get fed. That's honest. Everybody would get mad at Jesus and they would leave. He would tick them off. He didn't hold any punches. So am I willing to preach like Jesus, where it seemed like every time he spoke, everyone left? And I have to ask myself the question, am I a people pleaser? Or am I still laying it out there? And I ask myself like this quite often. Because that's what this church is supposed to be built on. Preaching regardless of where the words fall. And I know there's been times that I've thought, boy, I hope somebody comes back next week because that didn't go too well. I've thought that. I mean, I've gotten home before and Jill just kind of looked at me and just like, kind of laid that one out there, didn't you? And I have to look back and just make sure that that's what Jesus would say, and that it's just tough words. And I have to ask the question for myself: am I living for His will or for my selfishness? And how many times do I do things? Here's another thing that I face a lot. How many times do I do things out of pressure just so and so don't get mad? How many times do I don't do things because I know that it's people's expectations or whatever the case may be? How many times do I do them out of just pride and or don't do them just so I don't want to rock the boat? And I'm here to tell you this morning that if I ever find myself not preaching the truth as the truth, I need to find another place to be, another occupation. Because let me tell you, I want to preach like Jesus. And sometimes I do or don't do things out of fear. How much of my life do I do because I'm genuinely convicted to do it? Because I believe God wants me to do this, and it's the will of God. And you know what? No matter what it is, uh, no matter what anyone else thinks, I'm just going to do it. How many things are like that in my life? And I also ask these questions: Is it this is maybe you guys that were in my youth group? Seven of you guys are in my youth group. This is family chat time. Okay, family chat time is when you just get real. And I have to ask the question on many occasions during the 4 years we've had this church: is it worth risking losing somebody by a confrontation of holding someone accountable? If you don't have accountability, men, in your life, that's a crack that Satan is going to get right in, and the war has just taken an all new battle. We need accountability. We need to be held accountable, to have somebody that we can vent to. I vent to my wife all the time, and I'm sorry. She's like, no, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. See, I think the worst thing that I can do is deceive myself. I don't want to come to the end of my life and everyone is like, oh, you're such a godly man, so forth, so on. And I stand before God and the reality hits me. See, I can convince anyone of anything. I really can. But when I stand before God, that's what counts. And Timothy warns us in this in 1 Timothy 4. He says this. He says, this is kind of my life verse for being a pastor. Pay close attention to yourself and to your teaching. Persevere in these things. For as you do this, you will ensure salvation for both for yourself and for those who hear you. He's saying don't just pay attention to what you say, but pay attention to what you do. Pay attention, because if you do this, you'll save both the yourself and the hearers. It's the same principle that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians. Paul says, no, I strike my body, I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I preach to others, I myself will not be disqualified. He's like, you know what I do? I beat my body and I make it a slave. And he's like, and then he goes on, he's like, you know why? You know why I do that? Because at the end, I don't want to have to have preached to others and then find out that I'm disqualified from the race myself. He's like, so I better keep a close watch on my life, because if I preach it and I'm not doing it in my own life and then realize, wow, I was just faking it. I really was not watching my own life, because I was too busy looking at everyone else's life and pointing out all the stuff that they do wrong. And I'm like, God, I don't want to do this. I want to be a man that is after your own heart and wants your will, and says, God, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do. I will do it whenever you want, wherever you want, because it's your will. And allow me to remind you of a passage that many people do not like. Very common one, Matthew Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Think of the word Father for a moment. God is our Father in heaven. He placed you to be a father on earth. I think that's a pretty important responsibility. I'm going to show you some statistics in just a second that's just going to blow your mind. But he talks about here how at the end, how everybody goes, oh Lord, Lord, oh Jesus. And to some, he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. So let me ask you, are you a man or a woman who's willing to do the will of God regardless of the consequences? That's a tough question. Or do you just say you believe, you just say you trust, and you just say, oh yeah, he is my Lord and my Savior? Look, I want to look at my own life. I don't want to fool myself. Listen, I constantly look out amongst you guys, and I often ask myself, is this what I think God wants for our church? Is this what I want our church to look like? I just do not believe that His intention for us is to come here and just sit for an hour and look forward at somebody preaching. I just don't think that's what God's intent for this church. I'm not saying that we are that church. Well, okay, some of you guys are that church. I just don't believe that's God's intention for us as a church. That's not what He wants from us. That's not what He intended the church to be. So I asked this, what's He want? Well, there's a love that's spoken in the Bible where people are just, they're selling everything and they're caring for each other and they're taking care of each other. And I ask, how do we become that? Let me tell you something. Jill had supper the other night with a dear couple that we've known for years. Not with a couple, with the wife. She had supper with her, and they're actually looking for a church. I pray that they wind up here. I don't know, but she made a comment to Jill. She said, I've heard so many people compliment about they've just found love at Centerfaith. They just found a bunch of people that just love them and just care for them. And I'm like, that made my heart skip a beat. That's what we're supposed to be. We are such a different. I mean, you guys are like Bruna and Crystal. You're just so different. You are. You're also different. And I look out there, I look at Chris just smiling ear to ear. I love seeing Chris Lawson smile ear to ear. I remember being on Chris's back porch and kneeling down and praying when Chris received Christ. And I look back there at Will and Mary Beth, and I just think about, God, look what God brought here. What He made here. And I look at all you guys. We are just so different. And I know you get tired of hearing this. We're just a bunch of misfits that the Creator of the universe loves. And some of you guys, He made you to be a father. So I asked myself, what when I look out amongst you and I'm like, what is it that God intends for this church, for Centerfaith to be? And I realize that sometimes we just need to step back. We need to look at our lives and at us, the church, and say, God, what is it you want from us? What is it that you want us to? What is it that you want us to become? And not just conforming because this is how it's done in America. Let's not do things just because this church done it, or this church done it, or that church did it. We need to do things because God's called us to do things. We don't need to just be going to Guatemala and Peru just because we want to go on a mission trip. We need to go because we feel called. I'm going to start preaching now, then calm down. See, when everyone's going the same direction, it scares me to death sometimes. Sometimes we need to go the other way. The Bible says that broad is the road that leads to destruction, but narrow is the road that leads to life, and few will find it. And it's just like It's just like, God, what is it? And maybe it's the best way. Maybe it is the best way to do things in our culture and everything. But I just want to be sure. The Bible tells us to live our lives wise and not unwise, making the best of every opportunity. Look how it ends. Because the days are evil. Realize that when God saved you on that day, Chuck Ruth, where you at? What date was you got saved? On March 24th, 1984, when Christ came and saved Chuck, he saved them for every day after that too. Okay? Every day after that. And every day has not been roses, has it? Are you willing to do the will of God regardless of what it costs you? Just be careful how you live. Be careful of the choices. It's like here the days are coming, they're evil, and you're like, man, I better make sure I'm doing the things the right way, doing the things that God wants me to do, because it will be over before you know it. Listen, I want to take you, this church. I want to take this church where God wants us to go, and I want you to go. Go is a action verb. Is that right, teachers? That is an action verb, right? Okay. It requires us all to do something. Okay. God, I just don't know. Pastor, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How about starting on your knees? Because if you start on your knees, you're never going to go wrong. So I want to lead this church where God wants this church to go. And here's the point I'm getting to. We need men leadership. I went to a large church out in California a few years ago. Y'all have probably heard of it. Saddleback Church for a conference. Rick Warren brings this guy out on stage. He says, "This is," whatever his name is, we'll say, just for the sake of a crazy name, Rocky Rourke. Okay. He says, "This is Rocky Rourke. Rocky Rourke is over our care groups ministry. They have about 20, at that time, 23,000 people involved in care groups. That's a pretty big job." He said, "Rocky, he's in charge of the care group ministry here in Saddleback." He said, when Rocky first came here, he was in charge of the grill. He cooked the hamburgers on picnic. One is not more important than the other. It really isn't. We need men leadership. Now, I know what you're saying. Okay, all I got to do is grill a burger and I'm good. No. But if you do, bring me one, okay? But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that every opportunity, men, that you have to lead by example to your children, the days are evil and the days are short. Be that godly man. Pray with your children. Pray. Me and Jill, when our girls were born, every night we would pray for. I mean, they're like. I told Travis out there a few minutes ago when little Zoe was running around. I said, "Buddy, before you know it, you're gonna be walking her down the aisle." He's like, "Please don't say that." But we prayed every night for a godly man to come in their lives. Pray for your kids. Pray for your wives. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and you're not either. You're gonna make mistakes. But listen, if we as a church are going to explode and multiply, and I believe we will, we need to do it for the right reason. We need to do it for the right reason. We need to be meeting the needs and helping others. And as a family, I pray that you travel in the right direction for the right reasons as well. Listen, ran into somebody I hadn't seen in years this past Sunday, and I walked up to her, and she and her husband were a pastor of a large church of 900 people, and that church folded up like a $2 umbrella. Haven't talked talked to her probably 6 or 8 years. First thing she says when she walks up, she says, "I don't know what you heard, but that wasn't true. There wasn't any affairs, and there wasn't any money being taken, embezzled." And I'm like, "I didn't ask you about that. I don't know what happened. But we as a church need to be seeking God's will, not our own. We need to let God lead us in the direction that He would have us to go. And I want you to go with me on that trip. And it's going to take some men to lead that way. And I hope that you're that. I hope that you're one of those men. I want to share some of these stats with you as we close. Listen to this. The typical youth congregation draws an adult crowd that's 61% female and 39% male. The gender gap shows up in all age categories. On any given Sunday, there are 13 million more adult women than men in America's churches. This Sunday, almost 25% of married church-going women will worship without their husbands. Midweek activities often draw 70 to 80% female participants. The majority of church employees are women, except for the ordained clergy or pastors, who are overwhelmingly male, which is understandable. Over 70% of the boys who are being raised, listen, fathers, of the boys who are being raised in church will abandon it during their teens and 20s. Many of these boys will never return. More than 90% of American men believe in God, and 5 out of 6 call themselves Christians, but only 1 out of 6 attend church on any given Sunday. The average man accepts the reality of Jesus Christ, but fails to see any value in going to church. Churches overseas report gender gaps of up to 9 women for every adult man in attendance. Christian universities are becoming convents. The typical Christian college in the U.S. enrolls almost 2 women for every 1 man. Fewer than 10% of U.S. churches are able to establish or maintain a vibrant men's ministry. Church is good for men. Churchgoers are more likely to be married and express a higher level of satisfaction with life. Church involvement is the most important predictor of marital stability and happiness. Church involvement moves people out of poverty. It's also correlated with less depression, more self-esteem, and greater family and marital happiness. Religious participants leads men to become more engaged husbands and fathers. Teens with religious fathers are more likely to say they enjoy spending time with their dad and that they admire them. A study from Hartford Seminary found that the presence of involved men was statistically correlated with church growth, health, and harmony. Meanwhile, a lack of male participation is strongly associated with congregational decline. We're going to end the service this morning in a way that we've never done it before. I'm going to ask all the men just to stand up where you're at. And I want to end it by this way. I want to pray for you, your family, whether you're a father or not. I just want to pray for you as a man, that God would absolutely just get a hold of your heart, that you would lead your family, you would lead your children, and that you would also help lead this church, or if you're a member of another church, in the way that God would have you lead. Ladies,